Suk-ryu feels very worried about Sang-hyo's job as an architect. There is reinforced concrete, bricks, glass and also nails that are full of risks. But Sang-hyo just keeps quiet and he looks at his cell phone. He suddenly says that Suk-ryu won third place because she won a cooking competition. Suk-ryu is confused because she doesn't feel like she's participating in any competition. It turns out that Sang-hyo registered Suk-ryu for a healthy recipe contest held by the Korean Vegetable Association. He gave a recipe that Suk-ryu had cooked at that time, chicken broccoli risotto. Sang-hyo apologizes for not asking Suk-ryu for permission when registering. Suk-ryu still can't believe it because she won third place. And Sang-hyo thinks the food is very delicious, so there's no loss. Suk-ryu is upset because she is so happy that she is disturbed. She always wins first place for many things, but she has never been as happy as winning third place in this contest. She really wants to cook, but no one accepts her and she doesn't know where to go. But it's like heaven allows her to keep trying. Hearing that, Sang-hyo feels relieved and happy. Moim is forbidden by her mother to dating Dan-ho. She also threatened, if she want to date him, do it after her mother dies. But Moim doesn't want to listen to her mother and leaves her. Myung-woo gives an award to Sang-hyo. Then he helps Sang-hyo take off his cast, because there is a lot of work waiting. Because of the award, they get a lot of orders. But Sang-hyo feels like he has to reduce his work because he is going to get married. Hearing that, Myung-woo is very surprised and curious about his future wife. He doesn't believe it even more when he finds out that Sang-hyo is going to marry Suk-ryu. And the problem is that Sang-hyo has to propose to her. So, he wants Myung-woo to tell him how to propose to a woman. When Myung-woo gives an idea, Noyeon comes and applauds. If you want to be rejected on the spot, then do that idea. Noyeon asks Sang-hyo to remember 3 things. No audience, a nice ring and a touching letter. Make every day with her special. Sang-hyo feels happy and thanks Noyeon.
행복하세요.
Moim enters Suk-ryu's room and says that she confessed her love to Dan-ho, but he rejects her. And finally, Dan-ho confessed his liking to Moim, but he confessed his liking in front of her mother. Hearing that, Suk-ryu was very surprised. She apologized for being too busy with her relationship with Sang-hyo and ignoring her friend. But Moim was the one who didn't tell her, so it didn't matter. Her feelings were sour, bitter and salty. Sometimes, it felt so spicy that she thought her heart was hurting. Whether she liked her, as a madman, or Dan-ho, she didn't know anymore. But she was confused by her mother's attitude, who opposed their relationship, and Suk-ryu felt like she had the same problem. Sang-hyo and Dan-ho met and they enjoyed drinking together. Suddenly, Dan-ho said he liked Moim, but her mother didn't approve and he didn't know what to do. Then Sang-hyo got a message from Suk-ryu that she was with Moim. And Sang-hyo didn't let Dan-ho drink a lot because he was afraid he would get drunk. Suk-ryu invited Moim to walk even though she was lazy to walk. But Suk-ryu felt that walking could relieve stress. Then she invited Moim to sit down and it looked strange. It turns out that Sang-hyo also asked Dan-ho to walk so that he doesn't get drunk. When they met, Suk-ryu thought it was just a coincidence. But Moim and Dan-ho knew that they were acting and their acting was very bad. Then Suk-ryu and Sang-hyo left them both. Dan-ho then sat near Moim. It turns out that when Moim was drunk that night, she remembered everything, but why didn't Dan-ho contact her? That's because he understands Moim's mother's feelings. Moim wonders which man who asks a girl to be his girlfriend wishes a proposal and asks her mother. Danho thinks being honest is better than lying. But Moim feels that Danho has never expressed his feelings for her, and rejected her when Moim expressed her love, but why did he express it to her mother? And when Moim said he kissed first, suddenly Danho kissed her. But suddenly he stopped kissing and made Moim confused. Danho apologized and said he liked Moim. After his family's accident, every day of his life was like an emergency. Then when he heard the siren of the paramedics, who saved Yondo, the woman also saved her and made Danho like her. Moim hugged Danho. She felt Danho was very professional with his words. With the money from his article, Danho will buy her food. But Moim's appetite is big, then Danho will write many articles. They hugged happily. Sang-hyo invited Sok-ryu to have lunch together. They really enjoyed the food from the restaurant and made Sok-ryu curious about how to cook it. She wants to visit various restaurants and make mukbang videos if her stomach is healthy. Then Sang-hyo gave the idea to continue the video on her YouTube channel. Sok-ryu can continue to make cooking videos in Korea. But Sok-ryu felt it would be very difficult, because now the YouTube channel is very professional and high quality. Then Sang-hyo offered to help record it.
찍어주면 되지.
They also prepared the camera and ingredients for cooking. But Sok-ryu felt very nervous and Sang-hyo calmed her down. He said that Sok-ryu is the most beautiful woman in the world. But Sok-ryu felt her self-confidence and self-esteem were very low lately. Then Sang-hyo encouraged her because he knew Sok-ryu's food was very delicious. And that made Sok-ryu ready and Sang-hyo started to recording it. Sok-ryu will cook a menu of broccoli cauliflower risotto and chicken. Moim brought food for her mother. Her mother felt that Moim wanted to apologize to her. Indeed, Moim will continue to apologize because she is with Danho. Hearing that, her mother became angry. Then Moim explained that Yondo is not Danho's daughter, but his niece. Yondo and Danho's parents died in an accident, that's why Danho took care of her. But her mother still won't change, she still won't let Moim meet him. But Moim will protect them, because Yondo and Danho have lost their families. And her mother doesn't want Moim to be Yondo's mother. She thinks Moim can't take care of other people's children. But Moim remembers, when her father died, she and her mother were kicked out by her family. When her mother worked to raise Moim, her mother never forced her to study. Whether it was a career or anything, her mother respected Moim's choices. So, she asked for her mother's understanding this time. But her mother still refused and asked Moim to go on a blind date. Moim didn't want to go on a blind date and felt that her mother was very old-fashioned about marriage. She was like that because she didn't want Moim to have a hard life like her. She wanted her daughter to marry a man who would live a long life and have many children. And wanted her life to be happy and normal. But Moim is happy now, being her daughter and working as a paramedic. She likes Danho and wants to be with Yondo because she wants to be happier. The women gather and discuss about the cruise trip. They are very excited because it is their first overseas trip. But Mrs. Misak felt that there were many places in Korea that they not visited yet, so why go abroad? And at that time Mrs. Haesuk saw Mrs. Misak with a different face. It seems like she knows that her friend is having financial difficulties. Sang-hyo prepares a surprise to propose to Sok-ryu. He prepares flowers in the trunk of his car with the words, "Will you marry me?" written on it. And Suk-ryu is already waiting for Sang-hyo to go together. Sang-hyo will invite her to eat together because he has made a reservation. And Suk-ryu is happy she will get fat because of her boyfriend. But while on the way, suddenly Sang-hyo's car stops. It turns out his car was hit by another car and caused quite severe damage to the back of the car. Sang-hyo is very disappointed and willingly lets his car be towed. Suk-ryu also feels sorry for that, but Sang-hyo doesn't mind as long as Suk-ryu is not injured. It turns out, Sang-hyo invites her to eat at a restaurant whose building he designed. It was a building where he received an award. But Suk-ryu is not sure the restaurant is famous because the place is quiet. Then the chef comes and explains that his restaurant is famous. And Sang-hyo is nervous and also explains that this restaurant is famous because of its chef grade. Then the chef served the dishes and suddenly there was a call for him. It turned out that his child was just born and he was very happy. Sang-hyo was confused because he didn't tell him before. And Suk-ryu asked the chef to meet his wife. Then the chef apologized for leaving them. Before leaving, he told Sang-hyo that the cake was in the kitchen. Suk-ryu intended to leave, but Sang-hyo asked her to wait because they had to eat the cake that the chef prepared. Then Sang-hyo took his cake and tried to stay calm, even though no one helped him. It turned out that the cake also had, "Will you marry me?" written on it. When Sang-hyo brought the cake, suddenly his feet stumbled and the cake fell and Sang-hyo's surprise failed again. Mrs. Misak gave acorn jelly to Mrs. Haesuk. Then Mrs. Haesuk invited her friend to go together on a cruise ship. If it's a money problem, let her pay. Hearing that, it seemed like Mrs. Misak was a little reluctant. But Mrs. Haesuk felt that it was okay because it was not a large amount. But Mrs. Misak still refused. And Mrs. Haesuk felt that they had been friends for a long time, and she also thanked her for taking care of Sang-hyo. But Mrs. Misak felt that she had returned the favor because she had given her a salary to take care of her son. When Sang-hyo and Suk-ryu was sick, she took care of Sang-hyo first and took him to the hospital because she had been paid. She didn't want to be seen as raising her friend's son badly. And every time Mrs. Haesuk gave her extra salary, it made her suffer. Mrs. Haesuk did not expect that she did not consider her as a friend. Even though she paid for her trip because she was her friend and not because of pity. How could she act so humble? Hearing that, Mrs. Misak became angry and pulled her friend's hair. She could not accept it because she felt like she was being belittled. And Mrs. Haesuk felt that Mrs. Misak pretends to be her friend even though she has hated her all this time. Then their husbands come and break up their wife. When looking at her cell phone, Suk-ryu suddenly cries and makes Sang-hyo worried. It turns out that the video on her channel gets a positive comment. That her mother, who is undergoing chemotherapy, really likes Suk-ryu's recipe. She is grateful because Suk-ryu made a delicious healthy food recipe for her mother. Suk-ryu cries happily because she feels that person is like her when she had difficulty eating, and she becomes excited to cook again for someone who is sick like her. Sang-hyo feels that Suk-ryu's smile is very charming, but he wants to cry. Every time he sees Suk-ryu cooking, it sometimes makes him sad. He feels sorry for not accompanying Suk-ryu when she was sick and couldn't eat. So, he asks permission to spend the rest of his life with her. Previously, Sang-hyo prepared preparations to give a surprise, but everything failed. But luckily, he still keeps the bracelet to give to his lover. He asks if Suk-ryu wants to marry him, And Suk-ryu just apologizes for not being able to marry him. While on the road, her mother saw Moim walking with Dan-ho and Yeon-do. When she saw Moim tying Yeon-do's shoelaces, she remembered when Moim was little. Moim's words were the same as what her mother used to say. That she would show her a magical way to keep her shoelaces tied. She did the same thing as Moim did now. She remembered Moim's words that she wanted to be happier with Dan-ho and Yeon-do. And her mother was waiting for them in front of the door of the house. Her mother asked Moim to order food, and then she asked Dan-ho what he wanted to eat. Dan-ho and Moim were a bit surprised by her mother's attitude. And she also acted sweetly with Yeon-do and invited her to come inside. While waiting for the food, she carried Yeon-do and said that starting tomorrow she would show how amazing her cooking was. Seeing that, Moim became touched and hugged them. Suk-ryu's father and Sang-hyo's father met at a drinking shop. They were worried because their wives were still enemies. So, they met to find a solution. Suddenly, Mrs. Misak got a phone call that shocked her about something. She walked away angry because her husband was cruel to her. And it turned out Mrs. Haesuk was also angry while looking for her husband. They found their husbands who were busy drinking until they were drunk. Suk-ryu got a phone call and she came to pick up Sang-hyo, who was drunk. The owner of the shop was confused why the lovers often fought. Then Suk-ryu took him home, but he was very heavy and they sat down to rest. Sang-hyo asked why Suk-ryu rejected him. Why can't Suk-ryu marry him? Suk-ryu felt that Sang-hyo was very drunk and she would talk when Sang-hyo was conscious. She asked Sang-hyo to wake up or she would leave him. After a while, Sang-hyo woke up and they were already in the area around their house. Then Sang-hyo asked her to tell him why she rejected his proposal. Now he was conscious and wanted to know Suk-ryu's answer. She said she loved him, but why couldn't she marry him? Suk-ryu feels they are perfect like this, why bother? Sang-hyo says he will be her roof and she will be his rafter. Protect from the wind, rain and get lots of sunlight. They can become stronger and closer and live happily and long together. But Suk-ryu thinks maybe her life won't be long, she doesn't know what her life will be like. Maybe she will get sick again one day. Who knows, something bad will happen to her tomorrow. And Sang-hyo feels the same way, because yesterday, he also had an accident at work. Life has its limits and death is inevitable. He knows what Suk-ryu is worried about and can't say it won't happen, because he is not God. But one thing is sure, he wants to spend the rest of his life with Suk-ryu. 100 years, 10 years, or just a day, it has to be with her. And Suk-ryu also wants the same thing. Then Sang-hyo asks if Suk-ryu will accept his proposal. Suk-ryu answers, as long as Sang-hyo hasn't returned yesterday's bracelet. And when they hug, suddenly their parents are there. Less than 2 episodes left, so stay tuned and we'll see you again.